Have you ever had to make a big decision? Then you know all the stress, the overwhelm, even the anxiety that can come with that level of responsibility because you want to do what's right. You want to do the best thing, but sometimes it's not as clear as we wish it would be. So today we're talking about decision paralysis, how to overcome it and begin making decisions faster and more confidently. Because if we're being honest, one of the worst, most painful places to be is in between decisions. It's difficult, it's painful, we're left uneasy, and it's just not where any of us want to be. So if you've experienced this, if you're experiencing it right now, if this is just an area that you want to grow in for your future, this episode is for you. So let's dive in. Are you too busy to prep healthy meals? Do you feel self-conscious about your body and your clothes not fitting right, but you don't have time to work out? Does your life feel unorganized and messy? Do you wish you had routines and habits that made health simple, even with your busy schedule? I know, I've been there. Hi, I'm Shannon Marquita, and no one ever really taught me how to eat healthy. I didn't know anything about nutrition, so I found myself eating whatever was easy, which definitely impacted my energy, weight, and focus. That's why I created this podcast, to show you that through healthy habits and time management, you can know you're doing health right. So stop scrolling social, clicking the ads, and buying all the things. Let's grab our Americano and pop in our AirPods. It's time to solve the real problem together. Welcome home. A fresh start awaits. For anyone who lives in the southeast region of the US, this past week really had an impact on you. And for those of you who don't, I'm sure you watched to some degree. Hurricane Ian was nuts. It just kept growing in size and it kept changing direction. And that alone was extremely stressful because of the level of uncertainty. And then along with that, the decisions that needed to be made with so much uncertainty, insert extreme overwhelm, stress, and even a little anxiety, which is why today we're talking about decision paralysis, how to overcome it and begin making decisions faster and more confidently, because this past week was one for the record books. Being in between decisions was extremely difficult and painful, but thankfully we didn't stay there. For those of us that encountered any part of Hurricane Ian and are still experiencing cleanup and repercussions currently, my prayers are with you. We had to constantly be watching, taking in all the shifts and changes and details and making informed decisions despite all the uncertainty. So how did we do it? Honestly, the number one thing was teamwork. I'm so grateful for my friends and family who were close. We could take in the information, we could talk about it, we all respected each other's input, and we made informed decisions. We never knew what the exact right decision was, we just made the best decision. But before we did that, we were stressed. I can speak from personal experience, looking out my window with all the rain, hearing the wind, and just wondering, what is the right decision? Over the weekend, before we even went into the week of when Hurricane Ian was supposed to hit, wondering, should we evacuate? Should we leave the state? It was headed right for where I live, which is so scary and crazy. But we decided not to, because with the category of hurricane, it was expected to be the sustained winds, the location, and having safe options. And then it shifted. And then the question was, will it shift back? Will it continue to grow in size? We have now decided to stay. The window for completely evacuating was closing. What do we do? Well, first of all, we try to table as much stress as possible because that impacts our decision making. And we just try to take in the facts. What do we know? We knew what size the hurricane was. We knew the area that it was supposed to impact initially. And we prepared. We prepared as much as we could. We got our resources and our materials, and we made a plan that was initial with a backup plan, and we continued to watch our timetables because as the clock ticked, our options began to change. There were still options for leaving, going different places, being able to just adjust as necessary. But those windows closed. And so as we decided where to stay, where to go, we had to take all of that in. So the number one thing was having a trusted group of people to talk to, people who respect one another, and we could share what we felt, what we learned, and move forward with that, as well as watching the clock, because sometimes we have a lot of options, but as time progresses, the window closes and some of those options are taken off the table. The number 3 thing was asking ourselves, it's not always that there's a very clear right or wrong decision. I remember in a study with Andy Stanley, and I'll link the book in the description of this podcast, the best question ever. And I use that all the time, including situation like this past week with Hurricane Ian. And the question is, what is the wise thing to do? Not the right thing, not the best thing. What is the wise thing? And that's when you start to realize there isn't always a right or wrong. What's wise is often helps lead you to what's best. And so that became, where should we go? Should we go somewhere just for a certain amount of time as we continue to watch the track develop, which is exactly what we did, because we still had options to move around and change until the wind increased so much that it wasn't safe to drive for a certain period of time. We thankfully never lost electricity, which was such a blessing, but we were in a place that could take the wind and rain and even debris that could have come to our area. The next thing that's really important, if you start to experience yourself in a place of decision paralysis or just trying to avoid it because you know you need to make a big decision, is commit. Half the battle is committing to a decision. The amount of stress and anxiety that I experienced this past week had to do primarily with the fact that I was in between decisions. I was in limbo and just unsure. But once decisions started to be made, the level of peace, just because there was a plan, was incredible. And so I would just say, if you feel a level of stress and uncertainty, it's because you're in between decisions. But once you finally ask yourself, what's the wise thing? What's the best thing? Do I still have options for a little bit? Have a backup plan, but make a decision and commit and then completely step into it. Don't second guess yourself. Just move forward with peace because you took in the details and the facts and you weighed your options and you talked with your circle of trust and people that you trust. You heard them out, you shared your side, and you made an informed decision. It can be really overwhelming for big decisions. Hurricane Ian was just a perfect example, but we experience big decision making, important decision making all the time with our families, in our workplace, with our relationships. Having confidence in your decisions and knowing that you have people that you trust who you can talk with. It doesn't have to be everybody, but people who you genuinely trust that can speak into your life and can hear you out as well. And knowing that you've done all the research or you have the details in order to make an informed, confident decision. And then just stepping into it and moving forward, that lets you release so much stress and be able to move forward confidently. So I'm excited to hear how you're doing. If you at all experienced Hurricane Ian, come and share how you're doing. Are you safe? How your family, how your friends? Did you have to make decisions? Did you find yourself in a place of decision paralysis? I can speak into that personally because I did too. And I had to pause and I had to lay all of that stress and anxiety down and really focus on the facts and staying up to date with the information and details and in communication with others and what they were hearing and seeing and feeling as well. And then this week, just apply this to any level of decision, big ones and small ones. Feel free to start small because a piece of this is learning to trust yourself. You can make decisions. You can make big decisions. You are trustworthy. You know yourself best and what you need from these decisions. So learning to trust yourself, having a trusted circle, asking yourself what is the wise decision, and then stepping into that decision with confidence and peace, you can overcome decision paralysis and make the decisions needed for your life confidently and quickly. I hope you're having a great week. I hope you stayed safe this past week with Hurricane Ian. And if you're looking for ways to help out, I know there's tons of organizations out there. I'll link some in the description of this podcast, and I will talk with you soon. If this podcast helped, challenged, or inspired you in some way, I would love it if you'd do me a huge favor and leave me a review over on Apple Podcasts. It helps me to hear from you and know how this is best serving you. And go ahead and screenshot this and share it in your stories. Tag me at Shannon Marquita. That's SHANNONMARQUETA. And send it over to a friend in a text who is ready for healthy changes in her life too. Let her know that this episode might serve her as well. I am just so grateful for you and would love to hear from you. Come hang out and let's connect over in my Facebook group, bit.ly.com/afreshstart, or send me a message. I look forward to seeing you back here in a few days.